All right, let's make it happen. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. I am going to talk today, starting off about SpaceX, about Falcon Heavy. There's so much good news regarding SpaceX. There's lots of good news regarding Tesla. Talk a little bit about the Boring Company and engage with the chat. We'll see what people are thinking. Very excited about everything that's happening. I am here in Brooklyn. I'm staying at from home of a friend of mine, the dancing poop doctor, Dr. Rebecca. So thank you, Rebecca, for giving me a place to stay and giving me a place to host my live stream. Um, and check out Rebecca on TikTok or on Instagram or I think on Twitter. Look for the Dancing Poop Doc. She's a pediatric gastroenterologist, takes care of children, and is a great communicator. So, are you ready? Let's go. I'll do it again. So, Falcon Heavy. This is what I think is an exciting moment. That Falcon Heavy. I saw the third Falcon Heavy launch. This is, if you're not familiar with it, you can see in the image. Falcon Heavy is a regular Falcon 9 rocket, but it has two boosters on it. So two additional boosters on it. So it's able to launch heavier payloads or it's able to launch to higher orbits more effectively. Still reasonably priced, good results. I wonder if they're going to try to land the center booster. They haven't talked about that yet. But this is coming. It's October 28th. Here's some details. Finally set to fly again at October 28th. The thing I read was it was tentatively October 28th, so I wouldn't be surprised if it flexes a couple days. I will definitely be watching this launch. This is a mission that is going to launch. It's a military payload. There's not a lot of detail on the payload. I think USSF. That means it's a U.S. Space Force payload, and they're not providing a whole lot of detail on what the mission is. But whatever delayed it before appears to be resolved. Something with the payload was delayed before. It's ready to go. So this is going to be exciting. This is the kind of launch that gets, because there's so many launches now, right? There's Falcon 9 launches all the time. So there's so many launches that it's nice to see a big launch, something bigger. So the other thing, just before I'm going to dive more into SpaceX, I just want to comment. This was from Tesla Economics or something. He said, an insane week for Elon, Tesla AI Day, Q3 production and deliveries, Twitter versus Elon, Standard & Poor's investment grade upgrade. I didn't even include that in my list of things to talk about, the credit rating upgrade. Really quick about the credit rating upgrade. A lot of people said, oh, when they get the credit rating upgrade, the stock will go up. Well, they got the credit rating upgrade, the stock didn't go up. So, now it's like, well, the stock will go up when the pension funds or the institutional investors that are constrained by investment grade credit rating, when they go ahead and buy, that'll push the stock up. But traders should be anticipating that the stock will go up because of this influx of investment, and that didn't push the stock up. So I don't know. SpaceX human launch to station. I watched that launch, Crew Dragon. Starlink launch. I think I'm going to cover some of that, and Tesla semi-production. Some of this I'm going to cover. I'm not really going to talk about AI Day as much in this video. I did just publish yesterday an interview with Farzad Mesbah. He's a former Tesla employee. He's a YouTuber, great YouTuber. His channel's growing, and I posted that video yesterday. Not as many people watched it, so please check out yesterday's video with Farzad. I thought it was a really good conversation. You want to really have a really good if you want to watch and listen to a really good conversation between two Tesla junkies who are fairly knowledgeable and not the same opinions. We disagreed on certain things, but really, really good conversation. He's a really good guy. So, and Elon said it was a very intense 7 days indeed. I think there was more than that. I think this is an understatement of what happened. So there was supposed to be a Falcon 9 launch that was aborted. I was on the beach, on Satellite Beach, looking forward to seeing the launch. A bunch of people on the beach waiting to see it. And then I heard on the SpaceX broadcast, on the SpaceX YouTube channel, hold, abort. And abort is bad. Abort is we're not launching. Elon says it was a tiny helium leak, just barely triggered the abort, but we take no risks with customer satellites standing down to investigate. So that launch probably would have gone if it was a Starlink launch. So, yeah, we're doing in the chat here. Elon probably sold some shares. Oh, John Bay said, thought this was on later. I'm doing the live stream early because I have an event. I started this at 11 a.m. Eastern. I have an event at 3 p.m. Eastern that I have to go to. That's 100% family event I have to go to. So I started the stream early so I can get comfortably to the event I'm going to. I'm going to watch a show where a family member is going to be in the show, and I'm very excited about that. So big moment for me personally. This is a very I'm on a adventure again. I'm traveling. I'm hitting New York City and Long Island yesterday and today. Tomorrow morning, I'm going up to New Hampshire to see my cousin, my uncle, my aunt, maybe another cousin. Uh, one or two nights there, then going to Albany, New York to see old friends and see my hometown. And setting up a nice dinner with a bunch of friends. And then I'm going to drive back to Florida. I'm going to stop in West Virginia and interview a solar entrepreneur on the way back. Hopefully that'll happen. Looking good for that. So, and I lost a couple pounds. I just weighed myself on Rebecca's scale and I lost a couple pounds. So after the helium leak, we had the helium leak here. After the helium leak, we had another booster launch. I think this was a different payload. I don't think this was the same payload as the one that didn't go. So they may be still working on the one that didn't go. But another launch, successful launch. This is one I didn't get to see because I was driving. But we're looking good there. So Falcon 9 is launching like crazy. This is the most reliable rocket to launch payloads to space. SpaceX is dominating the launch industry, the global launch industry. They have the best launch system, the most reliable launch system, the lowest cost launch system. This is spectacular. Starlink. Just a little detail, less so for the story from Sawyer Merritt tweets a story about how students in rural Virginia with limited or no internet access are now able to use Starlink internet service with a grant from the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority. Elon said, should be noted that Starlink is still far from cash flow positive. All low Earth communications constellations to date have gone bankrupt, so any support is super helpful. So Starlink, I think Starlink is making a lot of progress. If you start to look at how much revenue they're generating when they get to 1 million customers, which I think they're around 1 million customers now, and you start to look down the road, they're at 1 million customers now. They're gonna be they're at 1 million customers now. They're gonna get to 10 million soon. When they get to 10 million, I think there's that question: when does Starlink becomes cash flow positive? When do they become profitable? Currently, they're in the phase of launching rockets. The Falcon 9 is a more expensive way to launch their satellites. When they get to Starship is going to be much lower cost for launching satellites and building out the network. And they're going to get to this point where they've got enough satellites and enough customers generating revenue, and the cost it will no longer be the cost of putting the Starlinks into orbit. It will be the cost of replacing the ones that are falling out of orbit. So that a lot of that is happening, and I think there's a lot of good news there. So Sam Corris, who's from ARK Invest, talks about this chart, which he says is the key chart for dollars per gigabit per second in orbit. And Elon is saying Starlink will provide the vast majority of bandwidth from space. I think it's also going to provide a lot of bandwidth in space, but we'll get there. But dollars per gigabit per second in orbit, the cost of getting satellite internet is declining rapidly. And this is a lot. I think this is a logarithmic graph, so the decline is much steeper than it looks. So, and then Elon also talked about, again with Sam Corris, one way to reduce open tabs. Elon says satellite constellation capability comes down to tonnage to orbit per year times capability per ton. So not only there's a lot there. Not only is SpaceX launching the largest payloads to orbit, but the Starlink satellites they're launching are the most capable satellites for their size in orbit. And the next generation Starlinks are coming with Starship, and they're going to be far more capable for their mass and for their volume, what's going to be launched. So that is going to drive success of our commercial use of space, which makes our lives easier when we need to use internet. We're not near a Wi-Fi tower. We don't have a good cell phone connection. Being able to use SpaceX's Starlink is going to be big for a lot of people. A little bit about the Boring Company here. Elon says that they tunneled under the road from one property to another. So if you've seen my previous videos, SpaceX in Bastrop, Texas has one property where they're developing the Boring Company. And I think they're getting ready to build, or they've started building a factory to build tunnel boring machines. Across the street is a SpaceX facility, which I think they're going to use to build Starlink satellites, but I'm just not sure about that. That may be where they're going to mass produce Starlinks. Don't know, but very likely a SpaceX property on one side of the street. And we know it's a boring company property on the other side of the street. So apparently the tunnel boring machine tunneled from one side of the street to the other. Renee Padhole asked, how's Prufrock competing against Gary the Snail? Any improvements? Did you beat him yet? Traffic is the ultimate boss battle, which boring company is helping. Elon says the snail is still faster, but the boring company might beat the snail by the end of 2024. That is pretty ambitious. Snails aren't fast, but they're faster than tunnel boring machines. If they can get to faster than a snail by the end of 2024, that's probably a sign of the next generation of Prufrock. The current generation of tunnel boring machines, the one that I think we're seeing here, should be able to bore, I think it was a mile a week. Just 50 miles a year times 12 tunnel boring machines means you're doing 600 miles a tunnel a year. The snail is significantly faster. And if they can get to the snail, you're talking about, game-changing, really, really heavy tunneling going all over the place. Okay. So the last thing I wanted to mention here, we're going to go to Tesla in a minute. This is about Twitter. So there's this, I think this is a thread from Chris, I'm not sure who he is. You find Elon's replies and you can find this tweet. But Elon says, Twitter is an accelerant to fulfilling the original X.com vision. There's this idea that Elon could have just built his own social media platform instead of buying Twitter. He's probably overpaying for Twitter. But if he built his own social media platform, there's no guarantee. Number one, there's no guarantee that you would get the critical mass you need in users to make it succeed. And I think Elon sees, like, I can't know what Elon sees, but my gut hunch is that buying Twitter, implementing all the things that Elon wants to do, you're going to see Twitter 5x. The value of Twitter is going to 5x in 5 years, if not more. So yes, he's paying 40 billion or so now. It's going to be worth 200 billion not that far down the road, and maybe another $1 trillion company. We'll see what Elon's got stuff up his sleeve. So I'm excited to see where this goes. Let me check the chat before I go to the next section. Alex of E for Electric screwed by VW. I didn't see that. We need tunnels in Los Angeles. Traffic is horrible. Tunnels everywhere. A friend of mine just drove through Atlanta, was complaining about the traffic in Atlanta. I was driving up north on I-95, and where did I encounter traffic? A couple of spots I encountered bad traffic. It wasn't too bad in Jacksonville. It was a little bit off in Jacksonville. There was another spot where the traffic was bad. I was a little bit lucky, and the nice thing is the Tesla routed me around the traffic at least once. Rob Markovich says, Warren, semi-deliveries are bullish for 4680s. What do you expect for daily production once ramped? Margins on semi. Well, once ramped, I'm not sure whether you mean daily production of semis or daily production of 4680s. Once ramped, 4680 will be 100 gigawatt hours out of Texas and 10 gigawatt hours out of Fremont. Margins on semi, it's really hard to see what the margins are going to be on semi. The original price of $180,000, that's not high margin, because the battery pack alone is going to cost 100 grand. So they're not making money on, but they probably can charge $250 for semi. There's a $40,000 tax credit to the buyer, so they're only paying $210. Tesla probably has significant margin at that, but it's not that big. Then the question is, can they get margin by selling self-driving software to the companies? Am I using Starlink internet? Not right now. No, my Starlink antenna is sitting in the garage of my house. I probably will not be using Starlink again. I'm probably going to sell my Starlink antenna to somebody. When will robotaxis be operational? I'm thinking by the end of next year, we'll see a robotaxi working somewhere, but that may be optimistic. A lot of people disagree with me and think I'm over-optimistic about robotaxi. I think we're going to see an acceleration of the improvements in FSD, and I think we're going to see a robotaxi network operating somewhere in the United States by the end of next year, by the end of 2023. All right, let me go on. We're going to talk about Tesla next. Somebody asked about semi. So Elon's excited to announce the start of production of Tesla semi-truck with delivers to Pepsi on December 1st. This is big news. I wonder with the Inflation Reduction Act, if the tax credit doesn't start till January 1st, if they might rather delay the delivery of the first semi till December 1st, or maybe they'll deliver one. But most of the semi deliveries will actually happen starting January 1st. If that's when the tax credit starts, maybe the tax credit starts sooner than that. John Bay, I'm visiting New York City. I'm staying at a friend's place, so I'm using their living room, her living room for this. Rebecca, the dancing poop doc. So that's good news. You know, Semi, this is a vehicle that in the long run, maybe this was your question. I could see Tesla delivering 200,000 semis a year. There's a key distinction between Semi and, let's say, Model 3 or the robotaxi vehicle. The typical car is driven maybe 2 hours a day and sits in a parked 22 hours a day. The expectation is that robotaxis will operate like 18 hours a day. With Semi, regular semis are already driven 12, 16 hours a day. So semi's not, so the point is robotaxi is a game changer for society because not only do you replace a car, you replace 5 cars, you replace 8 cars. With Semi, you're just replacing a diesel semi with an electric semi. You're not increasing utilization nearly as much as you are with a robotaxi, but there's still some value there. There's a lot of added gain there. It's much more efficient. It's, it emits a lot less CO2, much less pollution. There's a lot of good things about it. And so anyway, I think we're going to see 200,000 a year down the road at $250,000. That maybe that's $5 billion a year in revenue, and then maybe there's additional revenue from selling the self-driving software to the owners. Thank you, Mark Potocnik, for saying this. Please check out the elonbits.com for the merch, Cybertruck T-shirt, and other shirts. This is one of the most popular T-shirts. Tesla's the next Tesla's the most popular T-shirt, but this is popular. And I just want to mention at the top of the chat, in the top of the chat, and in the video description, after this video is going to be an hour long. It's going to end at noon Eastern. I'm going to start another stream on the Daily Lie on my locals platform, warrenredlich.locals.com. I'm going to talk about a conversation I was having yesterday with a good friend about how people succeed after they've thrived. After you've become really successful and you've got this big pile of cash, you see people sort of dropping out. Elon's talked about this. I've seen people in the Tesla community, they made so much money on Tesla stock and then they sort of dropped out from working. How do you continue to be productive and creative, build things and create things after you've become successful? I think it's something that a lot of people don't do. It's the hookers and below story, or you just chill, or you pursue your passion, so to speak, but you don't build. I'll talk about that. So that's going to be in the next live stream, which is starting at noon Eastern, and there's a link in the chat. There's a link at the top of the chat, and there's a link in the video description below. Just go to warrenredlich.locals.com and you'll see it. So let's move on. This is a big story for Cybertruck fans. Idra, that's an Italian company, I think it's owned by a Chinese company now, has finished building and testing the 9,000-ton Giga Press. I think the current Giga Press that Tesla uses is 6,000 tons. So this is a much more capable Giga Press. And it has already entered the port of Houston a few days ago. That was October 7th. So there's a question, when will the Giga Press arrive at Giga Texas? Now, this is a large chunk of machinery. It's going to arrive at Giga Texas. It's got to be put together. Thank you, Elango, for your support. So it's going to arrive at Giga Texas. Then it has to be assembled in Giga Texas. And then they have to start testing it. And Elon says, can't wait to see this beast in action. So this is good news. We are going to see this. We believe that this is the Giga Press that makes the Giga casting or Giga castings for Cybertruck. This is going to be instrumental in making Cybertruck work. It's going to be interesting to see where that goes. We'll find out more about that next year, maybe. What's the production method for Cybertruck? How's the Giga Press fit into that? How are they going to fold the stainless steel for the upper body? A lot of really cool stuff for the exoskeleton / upper body. It's going to be interesting to see how all that happens. I think people are jumping the gun a little bit. My prediction is that, okay, we're in October, and we're in early October now. So by the end of October, the Giga Press is installed in Texas, and they're starting the beginnings of testing it. I think when they first did a Giga Press in Fremont, it was a gap about 5 months from when they started building the Giga Press till they went into production with the vehicles using that. So if it starts testing in November, I think you got some other kinks to work out with Cybertruck. And it could mean production starts in Q2 of 2023. That's my guess, but production starts in Q2 of 2023, like April to June. and they start delivering vehicles in Q3. We'll see. Maybe it's quicker than that, but I think that's a reasonable expectation. Another quick thing about Cybertruck. Elon has talked about using Cybertruck to cross the channel from where Starbase is to South Padre Island. Elon says you'd need an electric propeller mounted on the tow hitch to go faster than a few knots. There might be a creative wheel hub design that can generate meaningful thrust. So he's still serious about it. There's people are like, is Cybertruck going to be watertight? Cybertruck is. My impression is that Cybertruck is expected to be both airtight and watertight. And if you want it to operate on Mars, you want it to be airtight. They probably need some adjustments, some tweaks to make it genuinely, operable on Mars and the Moon. But making it airtight is a big feature, so I think it's likely that it's going to be airtight, and therefore, if it's airtight, it's also watertight. Farzad made this point. This is about ultrasonics. Tesla's removing ultrasonics. They're not installing ultrasonics on new cars. The ultrasonics are these little dots around the side of a car. There's sonic sensors in there that detect objects. And there was this impression that people had this impression, now Tesla's not going to be able to avoid small objects close to the vehicle. James Dowman talked about this on Dave Lee. I think it's the beginning of the interview with Dave Lee, and there's a separate video just of that clip. Removing the ultrasonics, number one, the ultrasonics weren't perfect, and there's things that they would miss. The vision system should be better long term. It might not be better yet, but it should be better long term. Let's face it, I'm old enough that I drove cars that didn't have ultrasonics, and somehow we generally managed not to hit things. So FSD should be able to not hit things. But the savings from not putting ultrasonics in, Farzad is saying, let's assume Tesla removing them saves $200 in cost per car. Might be a little optimistic, but you figure there's, I think, 12 of them. So that's 12 parts. You got to punch holes in the body panels to make room for the ultrasonics. You got to wire the ultrasonics. You got to install it. There's all these steps along the way. Something can go wrong. So you're reducing complexity. You're reducing the amount of labor to install them. You're reducing the cost of the parts. I don't think the cost of the parts are the big problem. I think it's primarily the labor in installing them and the complexity of having them. And you just make your vehicle simpler. Simpler is better. So Farzad points out, if you save $200 in cost per car and you're making 20 million cars a year in 2030, that's $4 billion in cost saved per year. So it's not $4 billion in cost saved yet, but down the road, it's a huge, huge cost savings. Even if it's $100 per savings per car, that's $2 billion cost saved per year. So this is a big deal. I thought it was really good that Farzad saw that. Again, we talked about this in my interview with Farzad. Check out my channel for my interview with Farzad. Really worth watching. One of my favorite interviews so far. Omar's blog says, great first try with Tesla FSD beta 10.69.2.3. I have 10.69.2.3 as well on my X. Elon says 10.69.3 will actually be a major upgrade. We're keeping .69 just because, haha. And then he points to, this was later, Omar says the latest build is incredible, and Elon says even better build coming next week. So maybe 10.69.3 is coming next week. Not sure. Brett Winton is an analyst with ARK Invest. I was showing you some tweeting back and forth between Elon and Brett, Elon and Sam Corris of ARK Invest before. Now, Brett is breaking down Dojo, the world's largest computer, does 1.1 exaflops. Tesla's Exapod, which is Dojo, is designed to see 1.3 exaflops. And then he makes a point about comparing 64-bit on the world's largest computer and 16-bit on Dojo or Exapod. And Elon points out that Dojo uses the 16-bit, so actual performance difference versus 64-bit is much less than it would seem, since you would truncate so many useless zeros and round from there. A lot of what the Tesla supercomputer is doing is it's processing sparse matrices. And if I understand Elon correctly, the 64-bit, and I'm not saying I do understand it, the 64-bit is better when you have a lot of information. Sparse matrices are less information, and it may be that the 16-bit is as effective at processing or close to as effective at processing than a 64-bit. So that's why they chose 16-bit, is because the matrices are sparse. That's how I understand it. I could be wrong on that. I think I've got it right. In other words, large sections of the matrix are zeros. I don't know if that's helpful or not. This is about the end of quarter rush. This is Omar tweeting to Elon, Elon tweeting back. So Elon had talked before about wanting to end the end of quarter rush. They want to squeeze as many deliveries in by the end of the quarter to make the stock look good, to help the stock. And Elon had talked before about this is crazy. It puts too much pressure on the company logistics. Puts too much pressure on employees. It makes for an unpleasant customer experience as well. So he talked about ending the end of quarter rush. They have finally done that. So this makes deliveries more smooth. The manufacturing delivery process ends up being more smooth. You have less bumps in the road, and that's a good sign. Elon says smoothing out crazy end of quarter delivery wave to reduce expedite costs and relieve stress on Tesla team, aiming for steadier deliveries intra-quarter. So expedite costs, if you've got to ship cars quickly to get there, you got to find trucks for that. You know that there's a lot of underlying needs there to make that work. Elon also said the customer experience suffers when there's an end of quarter rush. Steady as she goes is the right move. So we're going to see a more even flow of Teslas going around the world to different buyers. I think right now they're shipping a bunch of cars to Australia, maybe Japan, from Giga Shanghai. Oh, did I find a new wife yet? I'm going to the chat now. Let's go into the chat. Did I find a new wife yet? No. Tech note: 16-bit isn't a single value representation. Part is value, part is factor, so no floating point for bulk of data. Sorry, I'm a computer geek. Higher bit rates are better for pack sizes. I'm not sure that's what that's about. Can Tesla bot drive? This is a common thing people are saying. Can Tesla bot drive? Now, the Tesla car has its cameras ideally, placed really, really well for driving. The cameras in bot are far less efficient at the purpose, and then the cameras in the car have direct communication to the steering mechanism and the braking mechanism, the accelerator pedal. If you go with bot doesn't have the same direct communication, so you're not going to get as much back and forth. It's one of your goals is reducing latency. The vehicle, the robot, in this case the car, sees something, because it's hardwired into everything, it's able to communicate more quickly, and the car is able to make decisions closer in time to whatever was observed. The bot, because there's a greater delay in communication from the bot into the drive hardware, that's going to be a problem. That's why it's not going to work. By men instead of women, no thank you. Why isn't productivity increases when holding back the process? Dojo's impressive. Manny GLA, I did not understand your question. Why isn't productivity increases? What is holding? Oh, why isn't productivity increasing? Productivity is increasing. The record production last quarter, the record deliveries last quarter. Deliveries were below expectations because they decided not to push to deliver more. Production was a little lower than I hoped for, but still pretty good. I do want to make more babies, that's true. Air needs to hibernate for about a year. Just looking in the chat here. Amy loves the Packers. Okay, hi Amy. In the future, will there be an ecosystem of robots with specialized in general robots? This is Elango. Will there be an ecosystem of robots with specialized in general robots, for e.g. specialized cleaning and cooking robots, and Tesla needs to just interact with them rather than do cooking? I think that the idea is that a humanoid bot should be able to do most of the things that a human can do. So there isn't as much need for specialized bots once you train bot to be able to do things. But there are certain tasks that are highly repetitive where you're doing such a high volume that it makes sense to have a specialized bot. How many semis by year's end? Yeah, 50 sounds about right, Michael. I think 50 sounds about the right number. All right, let me see. I don't see a lot of questions in the chat. Let me just check real quick on Patreon. If you support me on Patreon, on YouTube, as a YouTube channel member, or on the Locals platform, posted about this. Right. If you support me on Patreon, on the Daily Lie, on Locals, or as a YouTube channel member, you get early access to some videos, most of my videos really. For the basic channel members on YouTube, you get access to some videos. If you're exclusive content or higher level of member, if you're in Patreon or you're on Locals, then I give access to a lot more videos. All right, I don't see anything on the supporter platforms either. So, any questions here? Will Tesla make a van? Yes, I think it's likely Tesla will make a van. My prediction, let's see. Thank you, Barry, for joining the channel. My prediction is that we will see a Tesla van on the Robotaxi platform. The Robotaxi platform will be a variety of vehicles, and I think one of them will be a Tesla van. That's a good guess. A lot of talk about Tesla buying back stocks. What are your thoughts? I don't think stock buybacks make sense for Tesla. I think Tesla has a decent cash pile, but they want to have a bigger cash pile. There is a sense that if Tesla buys back stock, it's good for shareholders who retain their stock because the dilution happens. If the stock value goes up, you gain more in that scenario. But I don't think it's a high priority for Tesla to play games with the stock. Arctic Meta says Cybertruck by July 2022. It's October 2022 already, so no. You mean July 2023? I think they might deliver by July 2023. John Bay says, hope the bot is waterproof, then you can hose it off after getting dirty doing yard work. That's probably going to happen. Damian Weiss, eventually, how many wives do you think is the maximum you will need? Just one. It's not, would I like to have 10 kids? Yeah, but I don't think that's a realistic expectation. I think to have 2 more is a reasonable expectation. I prefer Papa Redlick, Uncle Warren, or Brother Warren. Depends who's asking. I don't like Papa Warren. Doesn't sound right to me. Uncle Warren, I've definitely been called that. Brother Warren's good. Call me W. The other W. Would love to see a lot of EV semis, but battery material constraints will limit production by any company. I believe that battery material constraints are a long-term problem, but they're not a short-term problem right now. Tesla, at least, is doing okay with batteries. Tesla Semi will bring in $25 billion on 100K deliveries per year. $25 billion and 30% profit margins would be $7.5 billion. I've done the math before. I'm not sure it's right. I think we got to figure out the cost of goods sold. Thoughts on the Fed and when they will stop raising rates? I think the Fed is probably running to the end now, but I don't like making macro predictions. I don't understand the Fed's judgment. I am concerned about inflation more than I think Elon is. So, Michael Anthony Warren, last week you mentioned a Giga Florida. Is it possible that could open the door to South America exports? Giga Texas can already do that. Giga Texas is already well positioned to ship cars to South America. Giga Florida would help, but I think Giga Texas might actually be closer. Will the Cybertruck be able to float? Yes. So I think Tesla still delivers a 50% year-on-year increase. In production in Q3, which was an off quarter, they delivered 50% year-on-year increase in production. Not on deliveries, but on production. It was 42% on, or at least close. Isn't the Roadster somewhat anathema to the high safety standards of Tesla? It could be too fast. They can make a mistake once in a while. Tesla does not make slow cars. A very good mark. Okay, I think it's going to be a short one today because I'm feeling tired. I drove all day yesterday and I thought it was a good night's sleep, but I'm definitely feeling it. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to be back live in half an hour on the Locals platform, the Daily Lie. The next road trip will be to Starbase when they're ready for orbital launch. If Tesla FSD software becomes the default software like Microsoft, won't that send the stock through the roof? Yes, 100%. So thanks everybody for watching. Please check out my other videos. Please support me on Patreon, Locals, or as a YouTube channel member. Check out the t-shirts, elonbits.com. No dog. Please like this channel, like this video, share it with your friends. Please subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Sorry this is a short one, but again, about a half hour I'm starting.